It is Thursday, December 21st, 2023. This is another edition of Baseball Today. That is my man, Trevor Plouffe. I am Chris Rose, producer Dan along for the ride as well. We didn't call each other before we got dressed today, did we?
Let's go Pirates.
That's right. For those of you that are audio only, I came wearing a Pirates lid. Plouffe had his hat backward until the big reveal. Oh, look where our thoughts are.
Well, always with Kutch, our guy. We're gonna get to
Yeah,
Kutch in a little
we
bit,
will.
but
We
I've been
will.
a Pirates fan for a while because see Rosie. Back in the day, I used to get a Pirates hat because of the P, Plouffe, all that thing.
Oh,
So I've
okay.
always been fond of the Pirates hat.
I am old enough to have remembered their last World Series championship. In fact, it's really one of my first baseball memories. The We Are Family team of Pop Stargell and that whole crew. I think I could almost go around the entire lineup and give it to you, but I won't do that today.
I'm sure you could.
I'll spare it. I was 8 years old when they won it in '79. I loved it because the Pirates wore, it felt like during that 7 game series against Baltimore, they wore seven different uniform combinations. They were like the Oregon Ducks before the Oregon Ducks. So it was pretty neat stuff. And they were great. It was easy to root for them, even though I was from Cleveland. So there you go. Let's get to it. We had a little trade activity since we last met. Mets and Brewers pull off a swap. Adrian Hauser and outfielder Tyrone Taylor to New York for minor league pitching prospect Coleman Crow, who I believe is coming back from Tommy John surgery. Are you more interested in how this immediately helps New York's rotation or how much more destruction the Brew Crew will do to its roster?
I'm more interested in the Brewers side of this. I'm happy for the Mets. Adrian Hauser is a great back end of the rotation piece to have. Like they need more depth there. They're obviously in the running for Yamamoto, but putting a guy like Hauser in your rotation, great, awesome. Brewers though, I'm just curious where they go because they have a. It's kind of like they don't have many choices. You either go ahead and you trade your guys right now. I'm talking basically Burns and Adamas. Trade them before the season, but then you go into the season kind of telling your fan base, we're not really competing this year, guys. And I don't think they want that, C Rose. They had, the hater deal wasn't great with the fan base. And then if you do this, I think it just signals to them like, hey, don't come out to the stadium necessarily this year, which sucks. You don't want that as an ownership group or for your team at all. So they have to decide. And I think the right move for them is to keep Corbin and Adamas on the roster and just see what's going on. Can we compete this year? And maybe we add some pieces. Worst case scenario, you compete and then you get a draft pick for Corbin Burns. Have to decide on a qualifying offer for Adamas. But if you go into the season and things don't work out, you can trade them at the deadline. And I don't think there's going to be a huge disparity in a package from now until the deadline. I think they're going to be, around the same. So it's interesting. You got to make a choice, man. And I think the best choice for the Brewers is to probably keep those guys and try to compete in the NL Central and then kind of make that decision, around July, early August.
So let's start with the Mets and what this means for them. Senga, Quintana, Sevy, Hauser, and then what? McGill, Lucchesi, a couple other younger guys fighting it out for that back end. Okay, decent,
Yeah.
decent. They need a dude, the dude, actually. And then all of a sudden the Mets become super, super interesting. And if they don't get whom they're chasing after from the Far East, then where do they go? It sure as heck doesn't feel like Blake Snell is the right
Didn't they
one.
say it was Yamamoto or that's
Or
it for
bust.
them?
Yeah, that's what
It's
it
kind of
sounds
what they've
like.
been saying, but that doesn't make
That's what it,
sense either. But
no. But let's look at it. To me, the more interesting part is what you talked about, Milwaukee. Let's say that the Brewers don't do anything further, either add or subtract. What are they? Are they a 75 win team? Could they be 500? Could they add a couple more wins? Maybe win a downtrodden National League Central? Because there's some teams that have made interesting moves, in my opinion. Where are they?
I think they always teeter around that line, don't they? They're never a juggernaut that's going to win 100 games. I mean, they try to win 85 to 90 games, somewhere around there. That's just kind of like their MO, or I don't know if that's what they're trying to do, but that just seems like what they do on a yearly basis. So where would I
But what do
put them
you
in the
think they
NL
are right
Central right
now?
now?
Yeah, what the current roster construction? Because we always say, well, we got to wait for moves. Let's just say they don't do anything, plus or
500,
minus.
500.
Yeah, I think you got to rip the Band-Aid off, man. I think we know what we're doing. It started with them with Craig Counsell going elsewhere. It certainly sounded like they made him a fair offer, maybe not the $8 million that he's getting from the Chicago Cubs, but an uptick in what he was earning to keep the hometown kid. It just didn't work out. So it feels like at some point over the next 12 to 18 months, they're pulling the Band-Aid off. And so you mentioned Burns, you mentioned Adames, who are both in their walk year. We've heard the prospects of them trading Yelly. He still has a ton of money left on his deal. And then to me, the biggest piece they've actually got is Devin Williams.
Yeah.
I think that once you see where Hader signs, that the Brewers are going to try and figure out where he fits. Like, I think that they could get something really good for, I think hasn't he won the National League Reliever of the Year award the last 2 years? Is that possible? Something like that?
I'm not sure about that. I don't want to say, I'm not sure, but he's obviously one of the premier relievers in the game.
Yes.
And I agree. I mean, look, he is an amazing trade. If you end up trading all three of those guys, you're in a full on rebuild. So it's like, is that what you want right now? Does any team ever really want that? Especially the Brewers. I feel like the Brewers they've almost mirrored the Cardinals in being like kind of like a model of consistency over the last few years. And we know what happened with the Cardinals last year. Do the Brewers they saw that firsthand? Do they want to go into that? And and if there's trading those guys, I think the Cardinals can bounce back and compete this year. I don't know if the Brewers, if they trade all those guys, are going to compete anytime soon. So you got to make a decision, and that is a tough one to make and a tough sell to your fan base.
By the way, Williams has twice won the Trevor Hoffman National League Reliever of the Year last year, and then 2020 was the first time when he was just balling in front of Josh Hader. Speaking of Trevor Hoffman, his old teams, the Brewers, and now let's move on to the Padres and relievers. They are bringing in Yuki Matsui, who led the league over in Japan in saves. I believe he had 39 last year. It sounds like the deal is going to be 4 years and $21 million for the 28-year-old. How big a deal is his arrival?
It's like a decent sized deal, I think. I don't know.
Not impressed, huh?
I am impressed. I think it's a smart move by them. Obviously, you're losing. They lost a bunch of guys in their bullpen. Who'd they lose? They lost Hader. They lost Luis Garcia. They lost.
They traded
Nick
Barlow.
Martinez. So, where are you? Okay, this guy's coming over from Japan. He's had a lot of success over there. And, Short King, what's up? I love that about him. But where are you going to find a guy that you can kind of maybe project to be a back-end type guy in the big leagues for 4 years, $21 million? No posting fee. So this is a value play by the Padres. They're trying to shed some payroll. They're going to have a little bit of room to work with, but they still have a lot of stuff they got to do and players to fill. But I think so this move, every team needs to shore up or at least try to shore up their bullpen before the season comes. I always talk about how fluid the position is. But you want to have, a sense of where you're going to be. The bullpen has become a very, very important part of today's game. And to get a guy who, you can, like I said, project to be in the back end, 4 years, $21 million, it makes a lot of sense. Now, is this going to propel them into the top of the NL West? No. Like I said, they still have a ton of work to do, but I like the signing. I'm curious to see how he does. There has been some reports that he didn't love the WBC ball, which is, I don't know if they use Rawlings Major League Baseballs. I don't think they do. It's still a little bit different there. You never know how these things are going to turn out, but again, I think it's a great value play for the Padres, and that's kind of where they're at right now. They're going to have to be smart, with that. I think they've got around 25, 30 million left to stay under that first tier of the CBT, which they want to do. They're going to have to be smart with their moves, and I think this is a smart move for them.
I think it's fascinating. You just start with his dimensions, 5'8", 165. How many big leaguers do we have that fit that? I mean, unless Pedroia snuck in under my nose. I don't know how many dudes.
Not a lot.
Yeah.
But they're good. When they're there in the big leagues, aren't they usually pretty dang good?
Hell yeah. Billy Wagner might get into the Hall of Fame this year. He was under 5'10", I believe. So now, different deal, even though they're both left-handers. This guy sounds like he touches 95, 96, sits more 92, 94, but has a nasty split like a lot of the pitchers from Japan who come over here do. There has been some pedigree of guys that have done very, very well. Usually when Japanese closers come over here, they're actually in their early to mid-30s. Certainly the guys that we have seen do fairly well, right? Koji was 34 when he got here. Now, he started out as a starter for the Orioles and then became an extremely successful reliever and was on the mound when the Red Sox won it all, I believe, in 2013. Kaz Suzuki, for people that don't remember him, he had a short-lived career with the Mariners about 2 decades ago. He was 32 when he got here, but was nasty. He could really throw the ball. Now, this kid's stats, look, they read great. He struck out 32% of the batters he has faced in Japan, but he has a career walk rate of almost 11%. It dipped down under 6% last year, which is good. You can live with that. 11% over here, no. That ain't any good. But I'm fascinated to see how it works out. So for me, it's 2 thumbs up in terms of interest.
Yeah, I think so too. I watched some of his outings. He's got a nasty breaking pitch as well. Splitters there. I could see how he's going to miss some bats. It's 5'8" angle, left-hand side. It's going to be interesting to see how everyone, adjusts to him. But yeah, I dig it, man. I think it's a good move. I think a lot of teams probably should have been in on this guy, just from the value aspect of it.
Did you face any real short dudes in your career? I mean, I can't imagine 5'8" you faced.
Ventura for the Royals, RIP. He was a short guy, threw really hard.
He wasn't that short though. Maybe 5'11".
I think he was pretty short, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
Was Dice K short?
I don't know. I told you on the show. I tuned him out. I stopped watching everything with him.
Watch him.
It took too long.
Stroman's shorter guy.
Seriously,
you don't see a lot of shorter pitchers.
When he was pitching is when I would make my dentist appointment because I'd rather do that than watch Dice K pitch.
Oh my gosh.
Couldn't handle it. Sorry.
You didn't like the gyro ball?
It's not that.
What was the gyro ball?
I don't know. Come on. Pitch 6.
Dice K was 6 foot?
Nice.
He pitched shorter than that.
Ha. He shortened my temper, I can tell you that. All right, today's episode of Baseball Today is sponsored by SeatGeek. If you have no idea what it is, welcome to the party. Go download it on your phone because it is the #1 rated ticketing app. It makes buying tickets to anything out there super simple. Did you know there are more than 70,000 events every single day available on SeatGeek? So that means you can go buy your baseball tickets months in advance. You can go get your NFL, college bowl season is here, NBA, college hoops, whatever you want. Oh, concerts. We got those as well. Here's the thing I love about SeatGeek is they rate each seat out there, not based on what price you're paying, but based on how good a deal you're getting. So you might look at it and say, oh, man, this is second row seats. I'm getting a great deal. SeatGeek will tell you whether or not you're getting a good deal by putting a green dot. Green dot's good. Red dot means slow your roll. Keep looking for another seat. And every ticket is backed by their buyer guarantee, and SeatGeek is the only site that lets you return your tickets ahead of time of the event with swaps at a future date. And we got the hookup. Use the code TODAY for $20 off your first purchase at SeatGeek. That's $20 off your first purchase. Promo code TODAY. Click the link in the description to download the app, and off you go. We continue on with a buckle up for safety. John Paul Morosi report that the Angels have been having discussions with one Blake Snell. Does that do anything for you? By the way, I can say that JP is a buddy of mine. I reached out to him just to lend my support, even though
that's nice.
He's owning it. Yeah, he's owning it, and it sucks for him. But
I'm still pissed at him, so whatever.
It's okay.
Your support, but not mine.
Right. Well,
I'm just kidding. I don't care at all. Would you support him?
Wouldn't you support a friend?
I would.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I sent him a text and just said, "Hey, man, thinking about you. I get it. I know you're bummed, but you got a lot of people who care about you. That's all." Even though
is he really that bummed out?
I think that one really hurt.
Like is Toronto, just pissed at him?
Well, he lives in Michigan. Let's start with that, okay? He and his wife, who's a doctor, very successful. And so, he's right there. He's right in the thick of it. And I don't think these guys, they pride themselves on being right and sourcing information. And he was way off, and he's got to own it, and he has. But that's all. I'm not here to.
You have my support, John.
You don't have to give it to him. If you don't know him, you don't have to.
Yeah, but I trust you.
And by the way, if you know him, you don't have to.
I trust you.
Okay.
In your judgment and character.
Yeah.
That's why you like me so much. Okay.
Well, one of the men.
Back to the question.
About Blake Snell and the Angels.
Does it do anything for me? I mean, not really. See, Rose, like a lot of talks, a lot of this, a lot of that. I don't know. What are the Angels going to do with 17 left-handed starting pitchers?
Well, this one's a different one, though.
It is different. Isn't he lefty? I will
He
say
is.
this. I'd love for them to make a move. I am probably higher on the Angels than any other person talking about baseball in today's media. I think there's still a chance that they could be good. There's some young guys there that I really like, and like
Mhm.
what it takes for a team to be successful is some young guys to step up and become guys. And that happens all the time. Your favorite player, the best players in the league, at one point, we didn't know if they were going to be good or not. And then all of a sudden, they're great. So the Angels have guys that can turn into that. They really do. New voice at the helm. I think Ron Washington's going to be really, really good for that
Mhm.
team. Now, I would love a Ron Washington, Blake Snell program. I think that would be incredible. So that piques my interest a little bit. Blake Snell on the Angels. I mean, sure, I dig it. I think it would obviously help their team, but just talks right now, it really doesn't do anything for me. And I swear, you can't have four lefties in your starting rotation. You just can't. You cannot have that. So if he was to come there, one of you dudes is getting shipped out. That's for sure.
Mhm.
In my humble professional opinion.
Well, so I think the reason I wrote this question was because it feels like anybody going to the Angels right now, it feels like it's going to be a lost cause. Like, do you want to see the reigning NL Cy Young Award winner, one of less than 10 guys, I believe, in the history of the sport that has won the award in multiple leagues, go to a team that, let's be honest right now, what would you have him in that division? Fourth? Fourth.
I mean, yes, you'd have to put him
Fourth.
fourth.
Okay.
Mariners fans don't want me to start talking about all this stuff, but
No, but I think the
they're
Mariners with
behind
the
they're behind the Mariners.
they're
They
behind the
are.
Mariners. Yeah.
Yes.
And I want to preface this by saying Angels fans think I hate them for some reason. Like I asked Bassett, I don't know if you saw that clip we put out about Mike Trout.
Angels
What?
fans are and they have kind of a reason to be salty and mad at everyone. I
Totally.
mean, they've been the butt of jokes and
Yeah.
you know misplaced anger for a long time.
Yeah. So the reason I even asked it, I think it probably is a good reason to go into it, is because Bassett is a guy who says anything and is a big opinionated guy about the sport. He doesn't just talk about the Toronto Blue Jays and his pitch mix. That's not what he does. So when I had him on, I was like, okay, well, now that Shohei's gone, would you like to see Trout gone? We know the deal. And everybody's
I know.
sending it back like, they already said they're not trading Trout. Why do you bring that up, that narrative? Because he's a baseball fan too. And I asked him if he wanted to see it. I'm not trying to get Mike Trout out of there, although I would personally like to see him go somewhere else. Blake Snell, does he turn the Angels into it? No, he takes them from a bad fourth place team to a better fourth place team, in my opinion. I
With
like
Blake
to.
Snell, hold on, let me think about that now. Blake Snell, does he jump? No, they still don't jump the Mariners. I don't think so.
No, I don't think
Not
so
not right
either.
now. Yeah, they could.
No,
They
they
could.
could with other moves. It's possible, but I would like to see one of the reigning Cy Young winners move it into a team where you know going into the year they're in playoff contention. That's for me. Now, if Blake Snell wants to go chase the dough, and if the Angels want to give it to him and use him as the tent pole for other moves this offseason, cool. I'm cool with it. But as it sits right now, like I said, he moves them from a bad fourth place team to a more interesting fourth place team.
Okay. I just want to give Angels fans a little bit of love.
Yes,
Or I don't
please.
know if love, just some hope,
Hope?
some
Hope.
optimism. Yeah, hope. We love hope in this country. Okay. Fangraphs has their lineup listed right now. I'm just going to go the bottom four of that order right now. Moniak, Ohapi, Shanuel.
Right?
I messed that up. And Neto. Like, if one of those four guys becomes like an all-star or a stud, like that's really good. If two of those guys become an all-star or a stud, like now you're talking
Now you're
about
talking.
now you're talking, and that very well could happen. We've seen all of those guys have flashes of times where like this guy's a stud. So I don't think they're as far off as many people who talk about the sport for a living think they are. They need to
I,
make some moves, and they need to make smart moves. Okay, like they have to hit. They can't just roll the dice and see what happens. Like they got to be calculated, and they really got to hit. But I'm buying Angel stock.
okay. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Like Ohapi's got to become what Jonah Heim was to the Rangers last year. He was like a decent
Yeah.
player, and then all of a sudden he jumped through the roof, right? Not only offensively, I think he was way better in the first half than the second half, had a little bit of an injury. But Nobody stole more strikes, it felt like, than that dude. Stuff like that. So, yeah, could things like that happen? Absolutely. I hope so. Listen, the Angels fans have been through a lot of shit, and I'm not rooting against them. I'm not. Am I rooting for Mike Trout to get to the playoffs? Absolutely. So if that means it's in Anaheim, great. It'd be a better story. But if he got to move somewhere else down the road, and I know it's not happening right now, but somewhere so that he can get back and get more than 13 at bats. Go ahead, caller.
Sorry, I just thought of something. I hung out with Jared Weaver at the charity golf tournament
Okay.
in Vegas, and I was talking to him about the Angels. First of all, bring Weave back in some capacity. Like you kind of need a little bit of that in your clubhouse, okay?
Okay.
Number two, think about what you did with him. And I'm being serious about this. You've got to use your ballpark. Everyone else uses their ballpark, and they think about how do we, exploit some areas of it. Those stupid rocks, they're not stupid. I actually like them. But those rocks in like left center field,
Mm-hmm.
when Weaver used to throw out of those things, you couldn't see the ball. Like let's draft or trade for some tall, lanky ass right-handers and have them thrown out of the rocks. Just do it. Like you have to do things like that. I know they traded for, or did they trade it for Ben Joyce or they draft him? And they drafted him.
The Angels?
Yeah.
Yeah, they drafted him.
Yeah. So good. More of that. More of that. Big, tall, lanky righties out of the rocks.
Weren't you in the no-hitter against Weave?
I was. And it was in Anaheim. Okay.
It's all blaming on the
Anaheim.
rocks. It,
And then he
Jared
reminded me
Weaver
that
on
he came the
rocks,
next.
please.
Yeah, exactly. He reminded me the next start. I think he started out with like 4 or 5 no-hit innings against us as well. So it was like,
I love
it's
that.
a lot.
All right, let's move on to the reason we're both donning Pirates hats today. Looks like Andrew McCutchen will hit his 300th homer in a Buccos uniform after all. 1 year, $5 million. As cool as this story is, don't you want to see Kutch play with a contender?
I want Kutch to do whatever Kutch wants to do. He's earned that. He's at the point now where, Jolly put out a Hall of Fame tweet about Andrew McCutchen. Like he thinks he's a sure thing because he's hitting all these plateaus and these counting stats, which I'm in for it. Me and my hall. It's a big haul for me. I think he's happy there, and I think that's nice to go back and reinforce your legacy in the city. And I think he's good for a young team. And at this point, like I think he's just happy with where his family's at and all of that. And he wants to be comfortable. So I'm okay with him going back to a place where he feels comfortable and can kind of, I don't know how long he's going to play. I'm not going to say right off into the sunset, but like he's earned the right to just go wherever he wants. And it's good for his family. Would I like to see him with a contender? Only if he was starting and was like doing things. I wouldn't want to see him on the bench with a contender. I don't think that's a role for him. I want to see him playing every day. And I think in a Pirates uniform is the best fit right now.
So they actually improved. And I didn't know this till I looked it up. How many more wins do you think they got last year than the previous year?
Oh, shoot. I have no idea.
Just give a guess.
Well, you just made it sound like 15.
15 is the number. Can you believe that they improved by 15 wins?
I
You
didn't
know
know
how
that.
many at-bats O'Neill Cruz got last year?
Not a lot.
32.
Yeah.
32. So in a division, and we just talked about it with the Brewers story, in a division where there isn't an ironclad runaway winner at this point, maybe. They just traded for Jesus Luzardo, right? They brought him in. It's interesting. No, sorry, Marco Gonzalez. My bad. Jesus is still stuck in Miami. Sorry, guys. Barely slept last night, so my bad.
Got you. You're all
Strike
good,
that from the
Rosie.
record. Martin Perez and Rowdy Tellez. So these are guys that have had success at points of their career. We'll see where else they go. But-
O'Neill Cruz, Brian Reynolds, Key
Yeah.
Bryan, Kutch, Rowdy. Like that's a top 5 that I can get behind.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm good with it. Now, later in the year, if things don't go the right direction for the Pirates and they come up with a possible idea for him, then yeah, why not? But at the beginning of the year, I'm good with it. I loved him seeing getting his 2000th hit last year in a Pirates uniform because his kids, I don't think they were around the last time, or maybe one of them, maybe the oldest one was like an infant when something like that. Now we're going to get a chance to see him hit number 300. Remember, we thought it was going to happen last year, and he had that calf or the Achilles or something go wrong. So this is good.
Is Kutch like a statue guy in Pittsburgh? Like, he
Well,
brought them back to life, C. Rosie.
so there's two statue guys you think of in that organization, right? Clemente
Clemente,
and Pops Stargell.
Stargell.
So those are the two that you start with. And then for decades, they just weren't very good once Bonds, Bonilla, Van Slyke, once that group got disbanded. And then it was pretty slim pickings. And he was the biggest, right? He won the NL MVP. So that's possible. It is possible.
I always say statue guy. It's so hard. I mean, you have to do so much to get a statue with the team. But like coming back at the end of his career, extending his Pirates tenure year after year, like
Yeah.
there's something to it. See, Rosie. I could see a little Andrew McCutchen walking across that bridge statue or something.
Pretty cool. I like that. All right, last thing. This is our final show before Christmas. If there's any major breaking news, Yamamoto, Bellinger, Snell, things of that nature, we are going to be around next week. If not, we're going to spend some time with our families. But because it's our last show before Christmas, regardless, what is the best sports-related holiday gift you got, either as a kid or an older person?
Man. It's a good question. That's kind of what my Christmas gifts were when I was growing up, was baseball
Mhm.
gear, because like my parents were like, we gotta buy them it anyway. Might as
You
well
get a
give it to 'em
jersey or
for
anything?
No, never got jerseys. It was always like a new glove, which was awesome. I think my favorite one I ever got, and probably the most beneficial to me, my dad bought a wiffle ball throwing machine that threw like the little wiffle balls. And so we got that, and we crushed that thing a lot. We used it so much. It's funny. I have one for Teddy now. He's like kind of just getting to the age, because it kind of throws pretty fast where he can do it.
Mm.
But that, to me, I think when I look back at like all the stuff I did growing up, the best thing I ever did was hit small wiffle balls with a small bat. So if you're listening to this and you like, hey, I need to get my son, hitting better, or, maybe just a good gift, a last second gift, a little wiffle ball machine. It's nice.
So when you're growing up in Ohio, the last thing on your mind around the holiday season is baseball, because you're
Mhm.
freaking digging out 18 inches of snow every other day. By the way, our neighbors, Mr. Winter, no joke, that was his name. And he always seemed like he was 90 years old. So I used to go over and shovel his driveway. My mom's like, why don't you go offer that? I was like, okay. Yeah, Mr. Winter, he must have been like 60, but he looked 90 to me when I was a little kid. So the two things I can remember, one is the electronic football, which people who are like maybe in their 40s would
Mm.
remember. You line up all of the blockers they don't move or anything. Like the offensive linemen the guards are like this, and the tackles are like this, and you have this little foam football that you'd set up the play, you'd put a divider between the offense and defense so they couldn't see your alignment, and you'd turn the thing on and go,
Mhm.
and the guy would bounce. It was impossible to complete a pass. Nobody ever completed a pass. If they say they did, they're lying to you. So I got that, and I used to like get so excited to put all the numbers down to match up with the jerseys. That was one. The other thing I got was a Keith Lee Cavs jersey in the mid 80s.
Okay.
Yeah, a guy who was a really good college hooper at Memphis State. That's what it was called back then, not Memphis, Memphis State. And we traded the rights to Charles Oakley with the Bulls and brought back Keith Lee on draft day. So I got a Keith Lee
Nice.
jersey. I couldn't stand him. He was terrible. And now I don't think he's alive. I'm sorry.
I got one more. I got
Yeah.
one more.
Yeah.
And this is not even, well, it was for me and my brother. We got a Nintendo console, regular Nintendo, and we had Mike Tyson Punch Out, which when you're young, it's like the hardest game ever. But I remember watching my dad sit there and beat the whole thing, including Mike Tyson. And I just thought, this guy's a superhero. Like, my dad can do it all. He can beat Mike Tyson on Mike Tyson Punch Out. That's when I started to like idolize my father. So
That's pretty good. Wasn't that
yeah.
the one where it had Glass Joe?
Glass Joe. Yep.
Knockout. Knock him out. That one. Yeah. That's good. All right, listen, have a wonderful holiday season to Olivia and Teddy and Isla and Dan Rourke, to you and your family and everybody who tunes in, because we know you have a lot of choices out there. You come and seek us out, and for that, we are forever grateful. We can't wait till we get back to 5 days a week. Like 2 days a week just doesn't cut it for us sometimes, but that's the way it goes in the off season. So thank you for everybody's support. Everybody be safe during the holiday season. We want you back, whether it's next week or after the new year. So we cannot wait to get rolling. Let's get some more big signings. Let's continue to have fun this off season. All right, bud?
Go Pirates.
For our one-of-a-kind producer, Dan Rourke, the uber talented Trevor Plouffe. I am Chris Rose. We will see you very soon here on Baseball Today.